Howdy, y'all. It's your favorite trainer with a belt buckle, giving you a sneak peek of what the best certification in fitness looks like. Show Up Fitness. Here's 30 minutes of what the online, also live, also in-person weekend seminars. Show Up Fitness CPT gets you access to fitness professionals. You get to ask questions, understand the fundamentals and the principles of becoming a successful personal trainer. Read the book, check out these slides, and most importantly, keep showing up. Howdy, everybody. We're going to be reviewing everything hip anatomy. We have roughly 90 slides that we're going to get through. We're going to prepare you for your Show Up Fitness CPT. You can go online and purchase that. As of mid-2023, the test is $169. Make sure to purchase it ASAP because every quarter it will increase. By the end of 2023 and the beginning of 2024, the Show Up Fitness CPT will be well over $200. And that's because as we get more partnerships, Equinox, Lifetime, Bay Club, and as we continue to grow into new markets, we're excited to partner with great people and companies because they are recognizing that our certification is the best in the game. So let's help you understand hip anatomy so you can pass your Show Up Fitness CPT. Now, this is going to have expectations, which you're going to need to know. Check this out. We're going to start off by taking a look at the legendary unstable surface training. And when I was at the University of Connecticut in 2004, there was 2006, there was a study by Eric Cressy, and you can click here to read that study. And it looks at the force production from unstable surface training. That could be an Eric's pad, a Bosu ball, as you saw earlier, even standing on a towel. And so your force is compromised. And the study looked at individuals and their performance, and they were greatly compromised. And so we just have to ask the question, why are we doing it? If you're doing a Bosu ball squat because a client asked to do it, that's one thing. If a client sprained an ankle because unstable surface training has been shown to be effective in helping increase the recovery when it comes to lower body injuries. So you would want to do that. Doing a stability ball or a Bosu ball squat as a choice of an exercise is poor. So don't be a poor trainer, be a great trainer. Focus on the 8 core movement patterns: squat on the ground, hinge, unilateral, transition, jumping, sprinting, crawling, breathing, skipping, throwing. Those are all transitional under that umbrella. And then we have a horizontal push and pull, vertical push and pull. So as you'll see right here, we're looking at strength, body comp, functional outcomes in the squat versus the leg press. I like this one from Dr. Schoenfeld because you will hear people say things such as, the machines are not functional. And this is a great study because it looked at how the increase in strength actually improved and hypertrophy when it comes to machines comparative to quote unquote more functional exercises. So we have to be careful with our vocabulary and not make fun of machines like they're bad. Now, some modalities, like I was saying earlier, they are not optimal, but there's a place and time for everything. So look out for your client's best interest. If you only have machines, that's fine. If you only have dumbbells, that's fine. You are the practitioner. You do not need the tools to be a successful trainer because you are the successful trainer. You can give me a TRX. You can give me a kettlebell. You could give me a Dynadisc. I can give my client an effective workout because I understand the principles of movement, the overload principle, the size principle, the fundamentals of programming, anatomy. And that's why we focus so much on anatomy, is because the average trainer quits within 1 year. That's in the US and the UK, 18 months. Because we don't focus on this stuff. We don't have the trade. We don't have hands-on learning. We're not getting to seminars learning from professionals. We have seminars every month. We have events that you can do virtually. You can come out to LA, San Diego, 2-month internship. You can come out for a week. The hands-on is the trade skills that most professionals lack. The business skills, you're not going to get that through a textbook. You need to learn from people who are succeeding in people skills. I was having dinner with Dr. Waterbury there tonight, and he was talking about being a chameleon. People skills, networking, and focusing. Those are the three biggest things, in his opinion, that are going to help you be successful. So the fundamentals, you got to know your anatomy. This is the hip joint right here. This is the femur, the head of the femur, neck of the femur. This is your pelvis. It's actually your butt bone down here. What we're sitting on right now, it's your ischial tuberosity. These are landmarks. So like on a freeway, if there's an exit 93, if you're looking on a map, you know where that is. If you're looking at a bone and you read head of the femur, well, it's going to be the most proximal aspect of the bone. Distal is furthest away. Here's a greater trochanter. Here's a lesser trochanter. These are landmarks within the bony structures. So the 20 muscles that you need to know for the Show Up Fitness CPT with proper pronunciations. You'll be given 15 minutes in front of a panel of coaches. You need to be able to pronunciate the words, show us where they are, 8 core movement patterns, and design a program all within 15 minutes. And the reason we have you do that is because that's what gyms want, and they're looking for confidence. There's nothing that's going to help you get a job faster when a manager says, we're going to give you 10 minutes to go in the room and design a program. And you say, I don't need that. I already have it designed. And they go, what do you mean? Most people spend 10 minutes doing it. I'm not most people. I'm a great trainer. I'm qualified. I'm ready to go. Tell me the case example. Boom, you designed it because you practiced for it. We've had people all throughout the world get to show up in a CPT. And one of the big check marks for accreditation is to have 100 certified personal trainers. And we have that. We just got our 100th one in North Africa and Morocco. And a lot of people we've had who've completed our program, English is not their first language. Anatomy is a new language for all of us. Don't use that as an excuse. We've had people that have spoken 4 languages. So don't use it as an excuse. Practice. Get into your phone or on a computer, type in how to pronunciate this name. Rectus femoris. It's one of the quad muscles. Rectus in Latin means straight. Femoris is making reference to the femur, longest bone in the human body. Smallest bone in the human body, in the ear. Incus, malleus, and stapes, all part of the vestibular system, balance. Vastus in Latin means large. Vastus medialis is on the inside. In bro lingo, it's your teardrop. Vastus intermedius is between the lateralis and the medialis. The rectus femoris is biarticulate. It means it crosses 2 joints, the hip joint and the knee joint. So from a seated position, you can lift up your foot. That's hip flexion. If you bring your foot out, that's knee extension. All of the quad muscles extend the knee. Only the rectus femoris lifts it up, which is hip flexion. On the posterior side, we have the hamstrings. You could put your hand behind your knee. And where your thumb is, if you go like this and you supinate, pronate, supinate, if you supinate behind your knee, where your thumb is, you'll feel one very large guitar string. That's a tendon. That's your biceps femoris. And then where your fingers are, your ring finger, if you were to feel around, you're going to feel 2 guitar strings. That's your semimembranosus and your semitendinosus. They cross the knee joint. Therefore, they act at the knee, but they also act at the hip. You do not need to know actions for the Show Up Fitness CPT. You do for levels 2. And as you move throughout our pyramid of success, and if you ever want to work for a Show Up Fitness, as we open up more gyms, we're going to have vetting processes. As you would see in med school, a doctor walks down a hallway, he's going to pick up a chart and says, who could tell me how you would work with this patient? Here's a specific scenario. Here's a specific scenario. Next door. You need to be able to do that on the fly. Those are our expectations. If you want to be the best trainer, you want to go to the best gyms. And that's what we're striving for at Show Up Fitness. So you're going to be vetted by someone like Dr. Waterbury or Luke Worthington, depending on where our locations are. And we're going to say, how would you screen for someone who has low back pain? What would you do? What were the exercises that you would choose? What would you do and screen for someone with shoulder issues? Ankle issues. They just sprained an ankle 3 days ago. What would you do? You don't need to know that now going through your CPT level 1. That's in the future. But to be able to pass that test in the future, you got to understand the fundamentals now. And that's where anatomy comes in. The gluteus maximus is the largest glute muscle. On the side, you have the gluteus medius and your gluteus minimus. It's underneath the glute med. 3 glute muscles. You have 3 adductor muscles, the adductor magnus, longus, and brevis. The acronym that I use is Major League Baseball. MLB, adductor magnus, the longest one. Sorry, the largest one. Adductor longus is the longest one. Brevis, in speech, brevity means short. You have 7 calf muscles. There's more than 7, but these are the 7 we focus on. The front one, which is your anterior tibialis. So if you lift your toes off the ground, that's called dorsiflexion, and your anterior tibialis is performing that concentrically. Concentrically means to shorten. Eccentric means to lengthen. When you do a push-up and you go away from the ground, that's concentric. That's typically when you want to breathe out. When you're coming down to the ground, gravity's pulling your body, your mass to the ground. That's eccentric. You're going against gravity. The posterior tibialis is behind the anterior, and you have 3 peroneal muscles. Another brevis, peroneal longus, peroneal tertius. Then we have the posterior calf muscles, the soleus and the gastrocnemius. The gastrocnemius is the larger one. With your foot in front of you, you put your hand behind your knee again. And if you use the friction from the ground and you pull your foot towards your butt, you will feel your calf muscle hard. That's your gastrocnemius. It works at 2 joints. Remember that term, biarticulate. Works at the knee and the ankle. When you go to your toes, that's plantar flexion. The soleus does that as well. In a seated position right now, your soleus is actually working more. In a standing position, your gastrocnemius is working more. So these are the 20 muscles that you need to know. There are more than 20. There's actually 40 plus around the hip. You need to focus on where they're at first. Then you will get into the actions. Then you're going to get into injuries and so forth in the future. Don't overwhelm yourself now. It's like in school, you start with Spanish 1, Spanish 2, Spanish 3. Don't start thinking about Spanish 4 and how you're going to be overwhelmed. No, you will get there. It's exciting. There's so much learning to be done. And you're in great hands because you have a nice map for success. Travis on Friday, when he teaches his anatomy classes, that app is significantly better than the photos you're going to be seeing in here. And so this is just going to give you a point of reference compared to when you look at these 20 muscles. You'll see where they're at. You'll see this is the longest muscle in the human body. My favorite, the sartorius. You have the gracilis, which crosses the ankle, the knee and the hip. Travis will have a cool little app that you can ask him questions on. Anything you see that's like white typically is going to be a connective tissue, ligament, tendon. Aponeuroses is like this line down the middle. On the posterior side, you have the gastroc on the bottom, which is the inferior, the most proximal aspect of the lower shank. That's what they would call this. Proximal will be up here. That would be your gluteus maximus. Your TFL, your tensor fasciae lata, your gluteus maximus here, as well as your glute med, they go into your iliotibial tract or band. So think of putting like 3 pins into a sock. The sock in the entirety is the IT band. At the origination, the most proximal part, those muscles will go into that tissue. You cannot foam roll your IT band. You're probably feeling your vastus lateralis because it's a very large quad muscle. It's the largest quad muscle. And that's found on the outside of the quad. Your kneecap is called your patella. We'll get into knee anatomy, ankle anatomy as we go through these slides. So start taking a look at these 40 muscles around the hip. Sartorius, largest muscle, longest muscle in the human body. Sartorius is a cool muscle because it comes from Latin of sartor, which is a tailor. And in the seated position with your legs crossed, that's where that came from. So as major and iliacus together form what's called the iliopsoas. It's your main hip flexor. So when you lift your knee and your ankle off the ground, you're going up, that's flexion. Your hip main muscle is your psoas major along with iliacus. You have the rectus femoris, as we said earlier. The pectineus is an adductor muscle. There's 5 muscles that adduct the femur. There's 3 that have the name adductor. So the pectineus and the gracilis also adduct, as well as the adductors, magnus longus brevis, max med min, TFL, tensor fascia lata. We have 6 deep rotators. We have 4 of the shoulder, the supraspinatus, the infraspinatus, the teres minor, and subscapularis. Those are called the sits of the shoulder. You can feel the head of your humerus. You cannot feel the head of your femur. It goes into your body. And so around the head of the femur, you have these 6 muscles that rotate externally. The piriformis is the main one, gemellus superior, inferior, obturator, internus and externus, and the quadratus femoris. 3 hamstring muscles. And then we have muscles of the upper body that cross, such as the transverse abdominis. That is a core muscle, deep core muscle. Internal and external obliques. If you do like a side bend, you'll feel the external and internal obliques get real sore. Rectus abdominis, rectus femoris, that's the quad area. Abdominis is your anterior core section. Straight up and straight down. That's where we see that 6, 8, 12, in my case, 16 pack. Ha, just joking. Erector spinae keeps the spine straight. You have a bunch of these muscles that line from the top of the skull, which is called your external protuberance of the occipital bone. That's a little nodule that you feel. Yeah, you have spine muscles all back there. And it runs down to the sacrum in the lower area of the lumbar. Quadratus lumborum they call this the QL. Quadratus lumborum. Quadrilateral coming off the lumbar area. Latissimus dorsi is technically around the hip because of where there's origination on the pelvis. Iliocostals, part of the lining of the spine. Multifidi, and on the spine as well. Great questions to ask Travis. Where are these muscles? Or pull them up. 32 through 40 muscles. We have the pelvic floor, 8 pelvic floor muscles. They are very difficult to pronounce. The pubococcal muscles, the PC muscles, when you're going pee and you stop and you hold your pee, that's your pubococcal muscle. Are you going to be required to say pubococcal? No, but the more that you know, comparative to the average textbook trainer, that's what's going to separate you. So put yourself into the world of today, 2023. The average trainer quits within a year, and they're going to come to you with some victim excuse. It's so hard. You can't get clients. Talk to me about the team that you have. Oh, interesting. You have 15 certifications, but you don't have a team. In sport, you have a doctor, you have an athletic trainer, you have the strength coach, you have the dietitian, you have the psychologist. They're part of the athletic team. But when it comes to trainers, interestingly enough, we're not a respected field, but yet we don't have a team. How did you become a trainer? You read a textbook, you took it, but you didn't read the whole thing because it's too confusing, very esoteric. So you go online, how to pass this test. ACE, ISSA, NSCA, CSM, whichever one you got marketed into getting. And then you pass it. And now you go out there and you don't know how to train. You're scared. You're scared. And so that's when that whole syndrome comes in. And you start thinking, I'm not smart enough. And so when you have someone in front of you, you're not confident. And they understand that. So then when you ask someone, oh, it's too bad. You were a trainer, but you quit. Why was that? Oh, so hard. Can't make money, blah, blah, blah. So who's on your team? Because I have a physical therapist. I have a registered dietitian. Oh, that's impressive. How'd you get that? Well, because those are the requirements that we teach in the level 2 and level 3. You have to build a team. That's going to allow you to get in front of medical professionals and to educate them that we are respected. We're not doing battle ropes and backflips and crazy CrossFit workouts. We're medical professionals in the same token as therapists. Chris Beardsley has a great strength and conditioning research, and he breaks down a lot of journals that have been produced that may be very deep. So he dissects it and presents it in a more digestible way. Looks at the larger lower body muscles. The max is significantly the largest. If you were to put rockets on the body. You wouldn't put them on your shoulders. You would drive down. You wouldn't put them on your feet. You'd do a weird backflip. You put them right on your ass. That's going to propel you forward because we should be sprinting and moving fast and explosive, not running for 70 miles. But if you choose to do that, that's fine. Your glutes are a very large muscle. Next up, your vastus lateralis. Intermedius, those are two quad muscles. Your adductors are a huge muscle. They are synergistic when you squat, not the hamstrings. The hamstrings aren't as big as you think. Flexor. So the quads are some of the bigger ones, but look at the rectus femoris. It's the longest quad muscle, but it's not nearly one of the biggest ones. Hence vastus, large. The rectus femoris crosses both joints, works at the hip and the knee, but the vastus group, intermedius, medialis, lateralis, are the larger ones. Semimembranosus, hamstring, sartorius, adductor longus, semimembranosus, adductor brevis, gluteus minimus, gracilis, TFL. So when we look at the hip joint, it can get into all planes of motion because it's a ball and socket, similar to the shoulder. We can bring our leg forward, which is flexion. We can bring it behind with its extension. That's the sagittal plane. When I sprint, when I run, that's the sagittal plane of motion. When I do jumping jacks, my hip is abducting, going away, and adducting, coming in. That's the frontal plane. And then when there's rotation, that's the transverse plane. External rotation, internal rotation. A great drill, and you can look on the platform under exercise library. You will see we have a lot of warm-ups like the hip 90-90 drill. If you've never done that, that's great for internal, external rotation, checking out mobility of the hip. You can get to 130 degrees of flexion, 90 with the leg straight or extended. So if you stand on one leg, you should be able to get your thigh past parallel. Really, 130 degrees of flexion will be right, maybe 10 degrees above your belly button. Very stable in juxtaposition to your knee or your elbow. I love that word, juxtaposition. It just means to compare. It's more stable than mobile because the deep acetabellum socket. More stable than mobile. So the PSIS, piscis and ascis, I don't say that because it doesn't sound right, but PSIS is the posterior back, superior above, iliac, which is your pelvis, spine. Anterior front, superior above, iliac spine. So if you grab your fingers, you grab those two little little nodules, I guess, little bumps on your hips. That is those 2 points, the front part, anterior, back part. Having an anterior tilt doesn't kill you. It's okay. Don't scare people. Oh, you have an anterior pelvic tilt. Better go to the hospital. You're going to die. That's not the case. We got to stop scaring people with postural stuff. The evidence is very, very weak. It's great for practitioners if they try to scare you with that. Oh, you're out of alignment. We got to fix you. Don't scare people. We're pro movement. If someone comes in with pain, when did it start? Let's take a look at why it's bothering you. Pain's an awesome thing. I always smile and say, yes, I love pain. Client goes, oh my God, how could you say such a thing? Why would you love pain? Put it back on them. You're driving on the freeway. Your gas light comes on. You son of a, oh, I hate you. Oh, this is the worst thing ever. No, it's awesome. Go get gas. Pain is beautiful because it's telling us something's off. So let's figure out why it's off. And it's a lot more complex than just saying, move your pelvis or do this exercise. There's such a huge psychological component to it. Pain is fascinating. That's why they have pain seminars in San Diego. They have hundreds of top pain experts in the world that come and present on it because we're constantly learning. And that's the beauty of it. So the vocabulary is so important. If you look at Western medicine, which I've experienced, I go into the doctor with low back pain and I got an MRI and I'm sitting in this tiny room. The smell, the brightness, it's very stimulating. My nervous system is heightened. I'm scared. I'm looking around. I hear sounds and all this crazy stuff. My brain's going, what the heck is going on? I look over on the counter and there's a disc that's slipped and all of these bad scenarios. I'm going, oh my God, I'm going to die. Doctor comes in. Usually you're not the most inviting, friendly. Hello, my name's Dr. Jacobson. You have a disc protrusion and herniation, and you shouldn't run, jump, squat, deadlift ever again. And I want to cauterize the nerve. That's what was told to me. So imagine my nervous system going, holy shit. I need to be guarded because I can't move. First, you go into a chiropractor maybe, or Eastern medicine clinic. It's very calming, and the people are friendly, and they smile and go, oh, you have pain. I'm so sorry. Let's give you a massage. Let's make you feel better. And they do some weird stuff on you with some suction cups or manipulating your spine, but they tell you you're going to be better. So you leave and you feel better. Whereas a lot of Western medicine, you're in there and they scare you. It's the same thing with movement. When people come in, don't squats are bad for your knees. Deadlifting's bad for your back. You're scaring them. You're positive. We are pro movement at Show Up Fitness. And you are too, because you understand movement and you understand the human body. I say this a lot of times. The difference between you and the average trainer, you understand the human body. The average trainer understands their body. Big, big difference. So that's a little less than 90 degrees right there with the legs straight, maybe about 75, 80. But you should be able to get to 90. That's going to be on the posterior side, knee flexion. Frontal plane, you have AB, adduction. This is rotation, which is in the transverse plane. Internal, external rotation. Moving forward the pelvis, moving it backwards. Anterior pelvic tilt, posterior pelvic tilt. Now, the pelvis is not perfectly parallel. It's slightly tilted forward. That's normal. So when you find your ASIS and your PSIS, here's my cup. It's slightly anteriorly tilted. So if you were to look at me from the side and you look at my awesome belt buckle, it's not parallel, it's slightly forward. That's neutral for the pelvis. So if someone tries to correct you, tell them to shut up. Imbalances are normal. And if they're not, then why is our liver significantly larger on the right side than is the left side? Why is a kidney higher than the other one? Why do we have 3 lobes in one lung, 2 in the other? We're not meant to be perfectly symmetrical. And pain is not going to typically come from one limb being a little longer than the other. There's a lot that goes into it. Don't simplify it. So hips are different. People are different. So why should everyone squat the same? So we have a femur that is maybe at 90 degrees right there. This one's at 130. So the depth that these people can get into, well, they're not people anymore, cadavers, that the depth they could have got into is going to be different. So why do we have to tell everyone an SCA says 10 to 15 degrees is what we should be doing? NASM says straight. Other people say this. Other people say that. Here's how I teach the squat. Close your eyes. Spin around 3 times. Get into a comfortable position with your eyes closed. Look down. That's how you squat. And a lot of times you're like, oh, that was so easy. But my left foot's a little out and up and my right one's not. Who cares? How does it feel when you squat? Can you get into a deep squat? What's your force production look like? If you have quote unquote perfect squatting form, which has never been done, and you're back squatting, say 225, take a look at our strength standards. Where are you at with the back squat? Where are you at with the deadlift? What about a hip thrust? And if you have quote unquote perfect squat form and you can do 225 for 10, but then you get into a position that's more comfortable, but you can do 225 for 15, you're stronger there. So why wouldn't you do the one you're stronger with? Working with Dean Somerset, and he's a top hip guru. He's given some seminars at our gyms. And he's a great guy. He's worked a lot with hockey players, and he's just very diverse. And when I went to one of his seminars, I've been to 3 of his seminars, like the same one, because you learn so much. And that's how I networked with some of the elites in the field of strength and conditioning. You go and learn from them. Why the hell would you go buy a $700 certification or specialization from a textbook versus $600 for a weekend seminar? You get to hang out, socialize with like-minded people, people who are innovative, people who have a growth mindset. That's what I want. So that's what I did. I've spent thousands and thousands of dollars going to these events, lodging and so forth, because I know that it's going to position me where other people will not do it because trainers are frugal as hell. So Dean set me up. I said, yeah, I got some right tightness in my right hip. He said, all right, let's see how you squat. And I was perfect NSCA. He's like, yeah, let's not do that. Bring your left foot up a little bit, tilt your right foot out. So if these are my feet right now, how I squat, my left foot is more externally rotated and higher, and my right one's down here. And I did that, and he asked me, he said, how'd that feel? I said, that felt really good. He says, that's how you squat. And I was like, boom, holy